I remember a time when I was in middle school, at this one specific moment that it's not so easy to forget. It was 8 a.m. in the morning. I can't remember what day it was or the date, but I remember I was sitting in class and I saw all of my classmates sitting on the other side of the table, and I was just sitting on my own. And then suddenly I heard someone say, "Loner." And I was like, "What?" I looked to my right and it was one of my classmates. That word just came right out of her mouth. I couldn't believe what I heard. I mean, I know she was joking, but that word broke my heart. And I was so pissed off because what she was saying was the truth. That was me when I came to Green School. I was just a loner. So what I want to talk with you about today is the way two cultures have shaped me. And I wanted to understand the path that brought me from that scared and lonely and shy kid to the person I've become. So this is my story. I was born in year 2000. Both of my parents are Balinese. When I was a kid, I used to stay at my grandparents' house in this small village in East Bali, Karangasem. Then when I was 5, my parents decided to move to a small town called Dalung, which is where I'm living right now. I live in a Balinese neighborhood called the Banjar. I'm pretty sure you've heard of this before. But the Banjar is a place where the Balinese people do social activities and ceremonies, and they keep the community strongly connected. So people in my Banjar, in my neighborhood, look after each other. It's like a big family. My mom always tells me to treat my neighbors with respect, treat them as if they're a family member because I can't live without others. I mean, if something bad happened to me, my neighbors will have my back and vice versa. So this is the culture that I grew up in. Then I moved to Green School. But before I came to this school, I studied at a local school. The local school was strict and I hated it, so I decided to move to Green School because the local school system didn't work for me and I wanted to learn English. So I applied to the Green School and I got accepted after being rejected twice. And when I came here, I was so excited, I was so happy. The thought of me going to an international school where I get to meet foreigners got me excited. It was just unreal for me. But when I came here, I thought I was gonna fit right in and make lots and lots of friends right away. But I was wrong. My first year at Green School turned out to be a nightmare. I was so shocked to see how different the culture here at Green School compared to the culture at home where I grew up. The learning environment was so different compared to my previous school, and not to mention the language. I understood English, but I didn't speak much of it at the time, so I was really struggling in class. So for a year and a half, I was not only struggling in class, but also in trying to fit in due to language barrier. And it's also a complete different environment for me. I remember when I was in middle school, I didn't have that many friends, so the only way I learned English is by listening and talking to myself in English because I didn't have anyone to interact with. It was pretty sad at the moment. And at that point in my life, I was trying so hard to fit in that I started to drift away from my own culture. I felt like I didn't belong in either one, so I was just kind of floating around trying to find my identity. But I kept going because I knew something's gonna change. And not until I was in high school that I started to come out of my shell. I pushed myself out of my comfort zone and just start talking to real people. And it worked. I became more fluent in English and I became more confident as I made more and more friends, and eventually I feel like I belong in this international community. I understood the Western culture better once I make friends with foreigners, and I started to understand how Westerners think and treat other people. As the author Debra Kidder say, you have to taste the culture to understand it. But what is a culture? Culture is a complex thing. It refers to the system of knowledge or belief of a particular group of people. And culture is expressed and passed down from one generation to the next through art, music, language, religion, etc. So from my experience coming to Green School, I noticed that the Western culture and the Eastern cultures is so much different. It's really different. And I was reading this book called The Geography of Thought by Richard Nisbett. And according to the book, the main difference between Western and Eastern culture is that Easterners have collectivist cultures, whereas Westerners have individualistic cultures. And when I say Western culture, I'm talking about Europe, America, and most English-speaking countries. And when I say Eastern culture, I'm talking about East Asian countries such as Japan, Korea, China, and those that have been influenced by East Asian cultures such as Indonesia. Now, it might sound a bit generalizing, but most of it is true. So collectivist cultures prioritizes the needs and goals of the community over individual matters, whereas individualistic culture is the complete opposite, where personal matters is more prioritized. So here's an example for you. So Westerners tend to embrace their personality. Being unique and having a distinctive characteristic is considered to be a good thing. Whereas Easterners don't show these as much because they consider this to be selfish or arrogant or sometimes unacceptable. So I created a small scenario for you to demonstrate it. So this is Stephanie. She's a Western girl. She's young, strong, and independent. Her parents gave her the freedom to become whatever she wants to be, so she dyes her hair with 10 different colors. She got piercings, and she goes to an art school. Her family supports her, and none of her neighbors cares about her appearance. But if she was a Balinese girl and expressed herself to this extent in her banjar, not only would people think she's a freak, but her whole family would be judged too, because people would think that her parents didn't raise her properly. So here's another example. In Eastern culture, success is often associated with achieving group goals and maintaining social harmony with the people around you. Whereas in Western world, personal gains and personal goals is often more desirable, more desired. And here's another scenario. So this is Komang. He's a very successful driver in Bali. He's handsome, he's rich, and he's got a bule girlfriend with him. But he keeps things to himself. He never goes to the Banjar and contribute to the social activities that's going on. And he has a bad relationship with his parents. So people think he's just a social outcast and not very successful in life. Just like anything else, both cultures have their positives and negatives. In Eastern cultures, everyone worked as a community. We work together, which help us to connect with each other more. However, this really restricts us from being who we are and expand our potential. On the other hand, in Western cultures, individuals have more freedom for self-expression, and they have more opportunity to expand their potentials as a person. However, this can make them become less connected with the people around them because they always think about their personal gains. It's always me, 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 me. So living in two cultures can be difficult and confusing sometimes. Although now I feel like I'm more adjusted to both worlds, I sometimes find it difficult sometimes to decide which culture I'm more comfortable with. I have to constantly switch between my Balinese culture and the Green School culture every day, and I find myself behaving differently when I do so. For example, when I go to school, I'm always surrounded by Westerners, so I automatically act like a Western person. So I'm more open about things, and I just embrace my individuality, show my true colors. But when I get home, it's a different environment. I don't show these as much because I have to act according to the Balinese social norms. So to reflect my 5 years of experience coming to Green School, I created an artwork, a mural just right across the school. And I just want you guys to sit down and enjoy the video.
This is the real soul city, and that's some ghetto.
Jump.
Right. So as you can see here, it's a Balinese person wearing his udang. And inside his body, you can see the Balinese patterns, and it says Trihita Karana, which is the Balinese traditional philosophy of life, which promotes living in harmony with people, God, and nature. And this person represents my origin, my Balinese root. And the stuff in the background, the guitar, his headphones, and the art style represents the crazy Western exposure. So for those of you who have been living here for many years but are still living in Western lifestyles, I encourage you to step out of it sometimes and enjoy the true Balinese culture. Go learn the language, and you can work with the Kukul connection here at Green School, and stop going to expensive Western restaurants and just chill with the locals at the warung. And for the local students, local scholarship students who goes to Green School, I just want to let you know that it's a privilege to be here. Make the most out of it and open up for every learning opportunities. And most importantly, even though you go to an international school, never forget your own culture. Thank you. Suksama.